Hi, Ryan.
Hello, Rachel.
How are you?
Well, there is a sense of both excitement and sorrow in the air because of where we are right now. No, not in the Babylon 5 coverage, of course, but in the seasons of the year. It is summertime down here in the land of Oz, and it is a nice scorching hot day today. And to give a bit of behind-the-scenes information, we've been meaning to record this episode, but it's just been too hot, so we've had to keep pushing back our record days, and it isn't easing up anytime soon, so we might as well do it on the 29-degree day anyway. But thankfully, we are doing it before it has hit the absolute hottest moment of the day, so the sweat has not yet formed on my brow, but I doubt that it will remain that way for long. Rachel, how are you doing overall?
All right.
Come on, Rachel. This is the Season 5 recap.
I'm doing okay for now. I expect to get emotional and frustrated
What?
at points during this discussion.
Wow. Why would you say frustrated? Well, we'll have to find out.
Byron exists.
Because Byron exists or Linear exists. We'll have to debate which one is worse. But the thing of it all is we are YumYumPodcast because of a supreme line of dialogue from Star Trek Discovery, a series that made us want to podcast in the first place. And if it wasn't for Star Trek Discovery, we wouldn't be bestowing upon the joys of our voices to these microphones. No. We would just be yammering away about Babylon 5 just to ourselves, Rachel. And on that note of things, how has it been for you now that we've done the main show? We have some movies left, of course, but having done the main show through the podcasting experience, like sitting down and recording each and every episode. We're not usually week-to-week watchers of Babylon 5. This is a different experience as well when it comes to consuming the series. How have you fared with it all?
This is the longest that it's taken me to get through Babylon 5 ever. And it has changed a lot of things, and it hasn't changed other things. And it's weird.
It is weird. It's made me grow an appreciation of certain things, notice elements of the series that I have not picked up on previous watches, but also I see a lot of the shortcomings of the show as well that get glossed over when I'm just watching 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 episodes at a time, and having to examine it piece by piece has obviously a double-edged sword effect where there's goods and bads to it all, but we are YumYumPodcast because, again, that amazing line of dialogue from Star Trek Discovery, and we are reviewing episodes of science fiction television one at a time, and we have reviewed every single episode of Babylon 5, and we're here today to do what exactly, Rachel?
Our recap. We do these at the end of each season, not just of Babylon 5, but of any show that we are working our way through. And now that we've finished the final season, we do the wrap-up,
where we take a moment to sit back and talk to one another and talk aloud about what we've garnered from the season as a whole. Look at the elements of it that were really strong, the things that did not work for us, the highlights, the lowlights, things that have changed upon our going through of it, and let's just go through right now our history with this. Let's give a bit of a recap on that, about how we were going into the 5th season. And with our first watches or previous ones, I have said it, but I've had a very wild experience with Season 5. I've hated many elements of this. The Byron stuff is so loathsome, But I've never understood the supreme hatred for the 5th season that it gets.
It's not great, but it doesn't deserve vitriol.
But I have thought it to be great. I've had a narrative in my head for many, many years now that the 5th season isn't that bad and that it's actually one of the best seasons. It has so many of my favorite episodes. It has many great characterful things in there. It's a conclusion to the series and it's a very satisfying one at that. And so walking into the 5th season this time round, I had my head held high. I was looking forward to it and to not only see the things that I know to be very well done, but to give a second chance to a lot of the things that I have felt didn't work. And that's had very mixed results on our podcast, but I'm very glad about that. And out of all of the seasons, it was the most exciting to get to, not only because it's a conclusion, but because it does have a lot of rough edges that are unique to the series. Now, for you, Rachel, remind us all where you were at mentally with the 5th season before we started to review each and every episode of it.
I was not ready to subject myself to Byron again. But I was just like, maybe it'll be easier to deal with because I won't be spending so much time in a singular day with him. It's like visitations with a deadbeat dad.
But you're talking about that one thing of the 5th season.
Because that overshadowed everything, Ryan. That overshadowed everything. Because it's the first half, and then it's like, ooh, trade routes. Whee!
Well, it's more than trade routes. Come on, it's Centauri war stuff.
Yeah. But the plot of this season doesn't grab me. It's the character growth and their journeys within the plot, and specific episodes that I was like, oh, I can't wait to dig in on this one. I was really excited to talk about the long night of Londo Malari and many other episodes that are in this season.
All of the bottles here are empty? The metaphor is getting a bit thick, don't you think?
There's stuff here that I truly adore and I respect, and it gives me so much. As stated, there's whole episodes of deep examination of the characters, the series and the writing really interrogating its own values and the values of the characters that we have been spending time with. But there's so much here that doesn't work. There's just storylines that are bad. In previous seasons, we've had episodes that are bad, but would you say that we've had a storyline in previous seasons that were bad?
No. Nothing like Byron stuff. No time like that has been invested in something that is just so frustrating.
Because with Talia, say, we may not have loved her character or loved the implementation of it, but her story overall was pretty good, and we enjoyed many episodes within it. And there may be storylines or plot lines that we don't love as much as others, but overall there hasn't been an ongoing thing that we've hated, like, say, with the 5th season. The 5th season either introduces ones or carries on ones that really end up in places that we aren't favorable towards. So that's kind of my overall thoughts on it for the time being. We'll obviously pick it apart more so, but this is a real mixed bag approach where there's things I love and things I genuinely don't love. For yourself, how do you feel about the 5th season, if you could give a bit of a sum up of it?
Whirlwind is the word that comes to mind, because there are some disastrous parts of this season, in my opinion, and then there's glorious parts of it. So it like picks me up and takes me along for that ride, and sometimes like there's beauty in the eye of the storm and serenity in terms of the acceptance that this show is coming to a close, and other times they fight it and there's just shit flying everywhere.
Where do you want to go from here? What do you want to pick up upon in that whirlwind of the 5th season? There are some high highs and some low lows. There's some moments that make you scratch your head. There are things that one just does not appreciate, or elements that make you giddy with excitement. Where do you want to pick at first?
Well, why don't we talk about some of our favorite moments?
Well, what are some of your favorite moments of the final season?
Like, the majority is sleeping in light. Obviously, being the last episode that we watched, it's on my mind. And there's so many scenes, or just the whole of that episode, from almost like a frame by frame, scene to scene, the whole episode, that there's just something delightful in every single bit of that episode.
There is a bit of everything, and it's all about the moments.
Yeah.
It's not concerned with having to wear so many different hats and fulfill so many different functions, even though you would expect that to be something that would burden a series finale, like it does with so many series finales. But the 5th season is very meticulous in setting up the board, so that way we can enjoy having a 45-minute episode at the end that isn't concerned about playing the game and getting all of the pieces in place and satisfying the audience because we did this plot thread and this plot thread and this plot thread, because we already did that during the other 21 episodes.
That's done. That's not what this is for. And I really just wanted to say that up front, because when I was thinking over it, I was like, I can't pick a single moment from it, because they all have different qualities. Like, a part of me wants to say that my favorite moment is Dylan grabbing the pillow in Sleeping in Light, because that tears at my heart in such a specific way. But then also, like, the hope of her watching the sunrise, and like Ivanova being back, and I just kept on being like, I'm just gonna cheat and say like almost everything from that episode. Now, my other one that immediately came to mind, that leapt to the top of like, oh yeah, that's so fucking good, is Lockley's monologue at Garibaldi about his addiction and her backstory.
It's a great moment for her. It very much
It feels
solidifies,
like it justifies her existence.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It makes her, without a doubt, important as a character to the season, because she has so much overshadowing her that she's a replacement for Ivanova. Does she deserve to be here? Her history with the Clark regime, her relationship with Sheridan, her as an actual character, and they tie her with Garibaldi, and they have an understanding between one another that no other characters do, and it makes the Lockley character all the more poignant. But what about that has made it linger for you?
I think I love the way that those two characters work together, and it's a moment that's been built up to very naturally and subtly, in the fact that we know that they dislike each other, and that's probably because they are so alike. But it isn't until really like Day of the Dead that we get that information that she is an addict, and that's a large part of why they are similar. And I love the way that she refuses to let up. She's like, I've got something to say and I'm going to say it, God damn it, and you're going to listen. And it also really helps that there are a number of just great fucking lines in the speech that she gives. But the one that I have that moment just seared in my brain when she's just like, you're just walking away to see it. Like, you just want to see if I'll follow you.
Which is what Garibaldi was wrestling with when Franklin went on his walkabout, because he knows from his own experiences that some people walk away because they want to see if you'll follow them into hell. And that's what Lockley was picking up with Garibaldi, and she followed him, and it was all the better for it. There's so many great moments, even within terrible episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Or even from certain players that I'm not a fan of. So I have a little smorgasbord of choices for favorite moments. So I really liked the implementation of Byron in The Kingdom of the Blind when he calls for the council meeting. And he's blackmailing the council. And I really loved the combination of that scene and the follow-up of Sheridan with Delenn and Garibaldi wrestling with what has just happened there and how this is politically inconvenient. And now Sheridan is becoming the president of Earth in terms of having to put ethics and morality to the side for political convenience. And I really liked that use for Byron as a character. He had points of view that made sense, but he was coming about them in ways that weren't very sympathetic and very short-sighted, but it was very deliberate that it was done that way. It wasn't by accident. It wasn't just Byron's an idiot. It was Byron doesn't know how to go about these things, but do you?
No.
And I really loved when he said straight to the council that they are responsible now for the telepaths. And Sheridan, without batting an eye, just rejects all of it. He just says, no, we're not going to do any of that. And he has no reason. He has nothing to back up his claims other than, I just don't want to. That's just too much work. That's not good enough for his position, but the episode knows it and the storyline plays out with it. It was a real highlight for me because I really love how season 5 paints Sheridan as an incompetent leader after him being such an excellent one, because he's a general, he's a military tactician, not the greatest diplomat, not the greatest humanitarian, not the greatest politician.
And it is a little bit of like, he outsourced a bunch of that stuff to Ivanova, and it's just like, well, maybe if he'd actually dealt with that,
if you ever had any interests in it. I also really loved the conversation that Lita had with Zach in the bar in The Secrets of the Soul, where he is telling her not to hang out with Byron. He doesn't like those people. He doesn't trust them, and she is one of those people. And it was just a great moment of catharsis because it's Lita saying out loud what we, the audience, have been feeling, which is she hasn't an ounce of respect from anyone in this crew. No one gives a shit about her, and it's time that she deserves. She's rightfully deserving of respect and
to take it now.
Yeah, and I also really love that scene too, because it came off the back of an episode or two after the brilliant. I don't know. I'll just put this all together as a moment, but her reading a person's mind as they're dying.
Yeah. Oh God, I forgot about that. But it is such an important moment, and it's so distinct to B5 as well.
And you don't get that outside of the 5th season, like those weird, haunting examinations and just
the time for it.
Again, to point, I really am going out of my way to pick moments for within storylines that aren't popular, but also with Byron, I really liked how he talked about that they can still sense the dead after a short period of time, and then he proceeded to give Bo the projection mentally of being a Starfire pilot out there. That was just such a wholesome moment. But I think my overall favorite, everything with Londo and Jakar is excellent. That does not need to be said. It's clear as day. Everything with them, the whole conversation about power and choice and them forgiving each other is the best scene in the entire series.
Anything in the cell.
Of course. But my favorite moment, and it's a heavy one, it's a dramatic one, it isn't a fun scene, but Zach confronting Garibaldi about his alcoholism, about his relapse.
Yeah.
The acting between Jerry and Jeff is absolutely stellar, and it's uncomfortable, and you feel terrible for Zach, and you feel like he's also a much more grounded and mature person than you may have thought before, because Zach is by his very nature secondary. He's always
fleeting,
a lesser player, but because of that, it means when he comes in with insight, he feels all the more powerful.
You're an alcoholic, Michael. You can't just have a few drinks and get over it. You can't justify it or explain it. You can't play the feel sorry for me game or you're no better game. And if I'm pissed at you, it's because I'm your friend. And I know what you've been through to get here. I've been through the same thing myself, and I don't want to see you throw it all away.
Now, we've been giving a lot of praise, but there's also a lot of shit.
Sheridan's ex-wife. I hate it. I fucking hate it. Lockley being Sheridan's ex-wife is one of my least favorite things in this entire show, and it's petty. It's petty that I hate it so much.
Is it? Because the show doesn't do anything with it. It doesn't deepen Lockley's character any. If anything, it reduces her character.
It reduces her, and it is because it frustrates me so much. Because it has so little impact, but it just makes her, it's a shortcut. And it's reductive, and it just aggravates me. It aggravates me because, like, I was really enjoying on this watch the slow setup of Lockley until we got to the part where it's just like, Garibaldi's doing some investigating. And I'm like, no, don't do it.
I agree.
Don't do it.
I agree. I thought the build-up of Lockley was very well handled. And then you get that
conversation with Corwin when she first gets on board is great.
Or when she's talking to Corwin about how she manages tasks, one little piece at a time, and that it's like a tapestry of things.
The next problem.
And then you get that reveal of her, and again, another shitty Lockley moment. Well, this is a particular one where it's a great thing for her to believe, but I don't think it's a great thing for the show to believe, which is true. The show sides with her, which is her rationale for why it was okay for her to be on Clark's side during the war.
Yeah.
It totally is great as a character justification, and one that can be, like, again, rebuffed by others and the show itself. But they literally clap and applaud her, and JMS himself is saying Lockley's right. No, she isn't. Lockley's not fucking right. Maybe she has a point or two, but no, she's not fucking right. Especially when she was on the side of people who are bombing civilians and going to burn the entire planet. I don't think she's on the right side there, dude. But JMS writes this moment to really frame it as another reason we should like Lockley. And I think it's such a disservice. That's the thing too. I think there's such disservice to Lockley's character when they have like moments like that, or Mac and Bo tell us explicitly that she's cool and we should like her. No, don't do that. Let her actions and her actual character speak for us. And it's okay. It's actually okay for us not to like her, because you set her up as a character to be hated, to eventually make us change our opinions on her. And maybe some people didn't. Maybe some people don't. But I do, and so do you, Rachel. And why do we do that? Because of humanizing things such as her backstory that was revealed in Day of the Dead and her relationship with Garibaldi. A thing that really upsets me too, another least favorite moment of mine.
Least?
Well, whoops, I should have put that in the favorites. Whoopsies.
We love these.
Is how little Lockley's used in the season. It's not a least favorite moment, I guess. It's just a choice made. Contracts, clearly. But she's only in 8-9 episodes. She's in maybe the same amount or less than Byron. Isn't that fucking crazy?
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird. Like, it's one thing for us as fans to look at it and go, oh yeah, they clearly didn't, they wanted Ivanova back, but they didn't get her. And then the show being like, we're distancing ourselves. She's over there. She's over there. We're looking at the alliance. That's over here. Lockley will intersect occasionally.
I am looking through my notes, and with least favorite moments, I realize I haven't put down specific scenes or moments or choices, but rather storylines.
Yeah.
And again, that's strange when it comes to this series.
To season 5.
And or ongoing story decisions. And I want us to break down what about them do we find to be failures. But the most obvious one to get off the plate, since it's small, is season 5 really leans back into the random one-off petty criminal, lower end, like, thugs.
We got some assassination plots, goddammit.
Or gangsters. The Trace and
the tough boys.
The toughs and the homeless evil. And my God, I hate when Babylon 5 has those as the antagonist characters.
God.
Because then
it feels lazy. It feels lazy because this is not a Monster of the Week episode kind of show.
Not anymore, not by this point.
No, and it is moved far beyond that.
The Thug of the Week.
Even when it did do it originally, it was shit then.
There's a reason why Grail isn't considered one of the great episodes. And it's because it's both a Monster of the Week, a random one-off character being the lead of the week, and also a Thug of the Week. And none of them work. And this is the 5th season where they front-load it. The first half of the season is filled to the brim with random, like, here's Trace, or here's this angry British homeless guy, or here's this. And what do you think it is, not only about JMS's writing that makes these lacking, but why do you think in the 5th season, especially in the first half, that he went back to this well that he had abandoned for quite some time?
Because traditionally an episode of television demands external stakes. They need an obstacle to overcome, a challenge that's specific to the episode. So he brings these in to beef out that part of the plot and then does other stuff in the background or like in conjunction with. So we get these trash villain arcs. And then we get some really great character stuff in the same episode because he's following that plot graph. And to get to a climax, you need problems. And it's not at this stage in television where character work can be those problems.
But we've had that for like 3 seasons.
No, but see, in the previously, the ongoing war and the wars, like the galactic size problems were what was building that tension, what was building like towards those battles, towards those action scenes, right?
Because there was an overarching thing.
Yeah. But that is resolved now.
Both the Civil War and the Shadow War are resolved.
And then we get a little bit of that with the Centauri War, and that's probably like one of the better parts of this season.
But wouldn't you say on paper the first half, it's supposed to be the telepath conflict is supposed to be that exact same thing? So why is this stuff shoved in there as well?
Because it doesn't trust that that's enough, because it's people talking. And TNT is not a people talking kind of network. So you have to, I'm assuming these things, obviously, but you have to put in something that's going to make an action scene happen in the episode. There needs to be a fight. There needs to be a battle. There needs to be a punch on something like that in each of these episodes, that threat of violence. And that's why we get multiple assassination plots. We get Trace. We get all of these things because they're there to do a base level plot job. And we don't need it as audience members. That's not something like we don't feel like it's lacking.
But the writer needs it.
But the writer needs it.
It's a crutch.
And yes.
That's all my answer is at this point, JMS has used all of his tricks. And now he's falling back on old ones that he used not only in this series but in previous ones.
It things up. It fills out time.
It is, and they're weak. They're weak sauce, but it's a means to an end. It fills out the time. It is functional, but not exciting. And
why they're so forgettable.
And that's so sad. And then we have the telepath plot, Byron. We all can easily say, oh, Byron's bad. We hate the Byron plot. Byron sucks. Like, awful. But now that we are experts in Byron, we went in, and this is not a lie, everyone. This was not exaggeration for humor or anything. I know I did. I really went in wanting to give the Byron stuff a fair shake, to like it, to really see the whole picture, to appreciate the merits of it, to look at the minuscule details and how it all builds up on itself, to say, hey, okay, maybe I've been too harsh on the Byron stuff. And I didn't get that. There are moments of it that I appreciate more, but...
You did that. I was much more looking at it still as a post-mortem of, like, what still works, what doesn't work, what about this changes waiting week to week and going weeks without seeing him, and then, how does he fit in?
And what about it, in your eyes, is the thing that holds back the Byron plot? What is it, in your opinion, that makes it bad?
I still don't know if I have gotten to the root cause of it. I see the symptoms of the organ failure of episodes and of scenes, but it's almost... I don't know if we really fully grappled with the fact that I don't know if this is because we've watched the show or because we know the show up until this point, or various factors probably. But we know that the show is not interested in fully resolving Byron's arc. We know that the telepaths are not going to have a homeworld. They're not. We're heading towards this telepath war, and we know what Bester is like. So there's this sort of niggling feeling whenever they go back to Byron of, well, Byron doesn't matter in the long run.
That's it. My thing was I listened back to some of our episodes and I kept talking about how it's difficult to tell if we're supposed to be sympathetic or not to Byron, if we're supposed to view him as tragic or villainous or misguided or whatever the case may be. And all of that keeps coming back to your statement, which is there's a lack of investment. Because you don't care about Byron as a character. You're not really interested to see where this colony plot goes. Once it starts to get going, it's very predictable. And it's so predictable, in fact, that you're frustrated that the characters within the plot don't see where the train is going. And then it is dropped. It gets mentioned once or twice afterwards, but effectively, this is a storyline that is there to fill up time. And it feels like an obligation. Thus, there's no investment in it. Byron doesn't seem particularly invested in the cause, nor does Lita, nor no one really feels particularly invested in this storyline. And I don't at home. As much as I want to give it credence and look at it about the examination of a leader that is out of their element and try and mirror it to Sheridan and so on and so on, it's more effort being put in by me to try and make this thing work than the show puts in to make it work.
Remember, Byron.
Now, this is the biggest question. Maybe this is the most important question of the entire episode discussion. Is it worse than Linnea's ending? And when the 5th season gets talked about with its things that make you get riled up, the things that are quote unquote terrible, Linnea and Byron are the first two things that get flagged up. Now, what do you think? Do you think the Byron stuff is more of an acceptable level of bad than just a quick hit of Linnea at the end being bad? Or do you think that just half the season being dedicated to what is a dead end is far more detrimental?
You know what? I am going to go with Linnea because it taints everything that came before it. Byron is shit, but Byron is contained. I don't look forward to the Byron arc, but when I restart the show, I will be thinking about Linnea's betrayal and Linnea dying somewhere at some point.
With no redemption scene. Not in the show, and that's the most important thing. I think it's Linnea as well, because even if you liked the journey being taken, which I found to be rather good, I still don't like it as a story, but I appreciate the writing and the acting put into it, and the commentary being made, and the insight, especially during the 90s, of this type of person. Now, if you're like me and you actually begin to like that stuff, or at least like it on a dramatic level, the ending still is a slap to the face to you. Now, most people,
it's worse.
Most people, even you, Rachel, don't get as far as I do with looking at the road being taken with Linnea's character and him being this unrequited love, and he's a sick person. Most people hate that enough that they don't want to give it any credence, and then you get the ending. Now, like you just said, if you're someone who's willing to give it the amount of respect the writing is wanting from you, the ending feels like it's even worse because it doesn't seem to care about anything. Like, we talked about it in our discussion, and we got one or two comments agreeing with us and disagreeing with us about it. And that's the thing, like, the Linnea stuff generates conversation, but I've noted that a lot of the conversation is like yours, Rachel, which is, I don't want to talk about it. That type of conversation.
Can we forget it exists, please? Please. Please. No, thank you.
Because with Byron, what does it ruin? oh, 11 episodes. Okay, whatever. But, like, it's self-contained, like you said. It doesn't ruin an entire character. What, Byron? We don't know him until now, and then he's gone. Who cares?
And it elevates Lita for us.
It gives Lita something more to do, especially after he's gone. But Linnea, the ending is not even interested in is not even interested in interrogating what he did. It does it in like a scene or two and then moves on. It just moves on. Like, that's the thing that I'm really bitter about. It's probably my least favorite.
Rejects it.
It's probably my least favorite thing that Babylon 5 has done. Not only in the 5th season, but in general. Like, would you agree that the Linnea ending is one of your least favorite things in the series as a whole? Or do you think just in this season?
Yeah, overall, like, I noted down a slightly different moment as my least favorite when it comes to the Linnea stuff, which is the prophecy that he will betray the Unlashok, given by Morden in Day of the Dead. I just want to remove that, because if I remove that, then he probably won't leave Sheridan, and it'll end just with the the awkward, if I did hear anything, then I would be flattered.
Oh, yes.
And that would be better for me. I could live with that.
When canon is bad, just make up your own, and then it works. And this is I don't know anyone in real life that likes this, that likes the Linnea stuff. I've seen one or two people online comment on our things to offer some points of view, but even then, it's from people who still don't like it, but they're trying to maybe give some credence to things. But I don't know anyone who's like, oh, no, yeah, the Linnea ending is great. I love, like, it's so good. No one comes to bat for the Linnea ending, not really. And if they are, they're like a real, like, out of left field person. They're like the type of people who think Kepha's a good character. But enough shitting on the show. Let's go back to talking about the things that we liked, and it's episodes. Do you have favorite episodes of the 5th season? Now, you already gave your review of Sleeping in Light during this discussion, so do you have any others in the 5th season that hit for you really well?
I do really like Day of the Dead. I know lots of people don't, but I enjoy it for the most part. It's not my favorite, but it's an honorable mention.
And keep going, Rachel. What others do you have in your roster of episodes that you like? So Day of the Dead has some goofy elements. It didn't make my list, but it does have certain pieces that I really am appreciative of, especially the Lockley stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
All of the Reba and Zudi stuff is trash and needs to be put in the garbage, but Neil Gaiman kept it in anyway because comedy in politics and politics and comedy. Oh boy.
Okay, well, we've got to mention again The Long Night of Londo Mollari.
The Very Long Night of Londo Mollari. Man, they don't make episodes like this enough in B5. This is all the character stuff that you were saying this season doesn't get to afford to do in terms of like just an episode is about that specifically, like the plot is just about that. This episode is. You get two stories. The Linnea one is actually pretty good in it, and the Londo one is just, it's all looking inward on the characters and saying, have they done right and will they do right going forward?
Yeah. And my other one, it's weird because, but like we were kind of saying before, that there's not as many whole episodes that are just great in season 5.
I have many, but
there are some real bangers, but it's not as hard to pick the cream of the crop when it comes to season 5. The last one that I want to mention for now is The Fall of Centauri Prime.
That is one of the best episodes of the show. It is Londo reaping what he sowed and deserving it, but also not. You are conflicted, but also satisfied, because this is a character, the most nuanced character, the most complex, him and Jakar, and he meets an ending that is sad, but also we knew it was going to be for him, and it's in my list as well. I also really love the Wheel of Fire, the titular episode of the season. They're always great. It's got the great Lita scene where she takes over a bar of people, and she totally did the right thing. And when I made a Facebook post saying that Lita was just standing up for herself and that's bad, hundreds of comments telling me yes and no on that. And that's the thing that's very fun, is that episode has such a wealth of material, but when you actually watch it, it's a series of scenes about the characters and them either reaching a point of exasperation because of what they have got or what they haven't got. And Janet Greek's direction is just excellent as usual. I was so glad that she came back for the final season and even did some of the movies and so on. And she was always just a talent, and I missed her visual style during season 3 and 4. So great to have it here at the tail end. But my favorite episode is And All My Dreams Torn Asunder. I said that when we watched it. It's always been it's my favorite episode of the entire show. I still stand by that. I love the slow tragedy of it. It's just Londo realizing how fucked he is and that there's nothing he can do about it, and so he must leave. And I love a courtroom trial setting. I love the council chambers. I love all of the direction in that one. Mira Fallon's husband, Goran Gajdic, directed Goran Gajdic. I can never get it right, but he directed that episode, and it's the only one he ever directed of Babylon 5, and it's such a shame because he does a superb job, and I wish that they used him more. Even in Crusade, they don't use him, and it's just, it's got the Zach Allen and Jerry Doyle, like it's got Zach Allen and Garibaldi confronting each other. It's got Londo throwing the paper in the air and Jakar reacting to that. It's just a myriad of great moments, but it's also not just an episode made up of great scenes. It is an episode of greatness in itself.
Unlike The Ragged Edge.
Oh, you want to talk about the worst episodes, the bad episodes? The Ragged Edge didn't even make my list. So I am wanting to know what you didn't like about the Ragged Edge. So remind everyone which one the Ragged Edge is. Is that the one where Garibaldi goes to the Drazi homeworld?
Yes.
You really didn't like that episode.
Yeah. They were like, it just frustrated me. It annoyed me. It was full of contrivances, and I was just like, just get it fucking done with. Move on.
Do you need medical assistance?
No, what I need is a guy with a claw hammer to whack me in the head real hard about 9 times. It's a long story. I'll tell you when I see you. Thanks to Lynn.
I know which is my least favorite, but I'll tell you what one I had the most visceral reaction to when I was looking through the list.
Oh, we failed to mention the Chorus mother, the Chorus father in the
good ones.
Yeah,
that's a great episode. It's so good. That's not my favorite. I just like it as a goofy episode.
Oh yeah, it's an honorable mention.
Sure. Now, an episode that I had a visceral reaction to when looking through the list was not the one that's the worst episode of the season for me, but I just hated Secrets of the Soul. The one where Byron and Lita have sex and Franklin has like a meaningless little plot about a bunch of aliens that killed another species within their planet and now it's fucked them genetically.
I'd forgotten about.
You said that you would when we did the episode. So here we are fulfilling the prophecy. Yeah, that one, but it's one where when I saw it in the list, I was like, ugh. And that, again, has that great Zach Allen bar scene, but I really hate that episode. But my least favorite episode is Learning Curve.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that bad. It just all bad.
Especially when you get to later in the season, you have Meditations on the Abyss and other Ranger-heavy episodes that are good.
Yeah.
That one is, it's not, but it feels like a backdoor pilot for a Ranger TV show with characters I don't know and don't care about. They don't offer much, and it's just the Babylon 5 spinning its wheels, doing its typical crime lord shit. That's the one with Trace, and it just, it's lifeless. It looks cheap as well. Like, it's the most awkward looking episode of the season. It got me mad at how much it was wasting my time actively. And that's not to say there isn't things in there that are good.
So Trace is your favorite character, right?
Oh, he's my favorite character, right next to Lise, of course. And
we love Lise.
Oh, we all love Lise. And
give it up for Lise.
Can we give it up to Lise, everyone? Can we give it up to Lise? She's going to be in the movies.
She nearly died.
She went down. Lise went down like McGrath did, according to Learning Curve. but like Sheridan, she rose yet again because she's a female Jesus equivalent. Now, I haven't gone back and read the Bible, but have there been any ladies that have risen from the dead? Rachel, have any ladies risen from the dead? I know Methuselah's out there, but and Jesus rose, but like, have there been any people, ladies that have come back from the dead?
The only thing that comes to mind is how Mary was technically skipped death.
Sure. There's stuff with Lilith, right? I can't remember. I'm not up on my Bible. Maybe if I rewatch Babylon 5, they'll get Brother Theo in to come tell me some good old Catholic stories that I'm desperately missing out on. But
okay.
least favorite characters in all honesty, Byron. There we go.
I want to give an honorable mention to Garibaldi.
Really? Okay.
Not because I think it's a bad characterization or a bad arc, but because it just frustrates me so much.
See, I have him in my favorite characters of the season. You have him in your list.
Yeah, because
it's upsetting too.
Yeah, it's bad because it's so frustrating, but it's good because it's so frustrating. And I was just like, I just want to say fuck off Garibaldi all of the time. So that's why I ended up putting him on my least favorite list, even though he's there because I'm invested and because it's good what they do with him. But it's just like, God damn it. And Linnea was in there for the same reason.
Because even if you liked what Linnea's story was, his story was so uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so tense every time he shows up. How is he going to be a fucking creep?
Byron's too easy.
But it's correct.
It's correct. It's correct. I'm not arguing that. Okay. I didn't even bother writing it down.
Can I give a shout out to Special Simon? Can I throw him in the list? I didn't like that freaky kid. I'm glad he died. I don't like him. I didn't like him.
Spicy take from Ryan.
No, it isn't. I'm correct. It's a correct take from Ryan. I'm trying to think. This isn't a least favorite, but maybe she went down very much in the season for me, which is Delenn doesn't get too much to chew on in season 5. She doesn't get a story of her own really outside of her relationships, her relationship to John, her relationship to Delenn, and to Linnea. Sorry,
I adore it so.
But I like when Delenn gets this. For instance,
I like it when she gets something to do.
Even in Learning Curve, where it's about her being Ranger 1, it's not her episode.
No.
It's an episode where she does stuff, but it's not her. I wish that season 5 gave Mira and Delenn more of her own episodes. Season 4 was a bounty with that, and then The fifth
Sleeping in
season.
Light
Well,
gets
yeah,
so
but that was filmed in season 4. You
It's
see,
just so much.
it does. Again, she's not my least favorites. I'm just noting that I was a bit disappointed that we didn't have too many deep conversations about Delenn in the same way we had for multiple seasons.
I love what she brings.
Well,
Like, she doesn't get a lot to do, but I love the perspective that she brings. I love the performance. It's just always just sort of almost like rapturing when she is there.
Now, with the favorite characters, it's still Jakar and Londo. That's never going to be dismissed. And again, I don't want to feel like it's dismissive to not talk about them in more depth, but that's every episode of this podcast. That's every person who watches Babylon 5. It's tried and true for a good reason, because they're the most well-written and the best acted characters in the series. Without a doubt. And I think for myself with this rewatch of season 5, Garibaldi, Lockley, and Lita really rose to the top of the ladder
Lita
for me.
Was one of my other favorites that I noted down, because like it's so enjoyable to have justified rage on behalf of a character. And Lita is great for that. And then she does stuff that makes you not want to side with her.
Oh, of course. But she does it in an attitude that you understand. See,
You get her.
Unlike Byron.
Yeah.
And this
you get her, you know her, you understand why she's doing these good things, these bad things, these things in between, and she feels like a whole person.
Because she's so worn down.
Whereas Byron, the way that they try and build out his character makes him less at each stage instead of more.
Lita is a character that you feel very sympathetic for, even though she joins up with people that maybe she shouldn't, and she becomes something that is more villainous than positive. But you feel for her because she has no support, and she tries. I had an argument about this on that infamous Facebook post I was saying. She tries throughout the show to get support and help from those around her. She expresses her grievances, she expresses her trauma, and no one cares. No one cares. They just want her to keep doing it because she has powers and they don't, and they need her powers, and fuck you, Lita. And it's just an inherently sympathetic trait. I think Lita is played very well. Patricia Tallman is clearly having the time of her life in this season. It's only rivaled by Patricia Tallman's performance in The Road Home for the amount of fun she has playing the character. And then with, of course, Garibaldi. You had him in your negatives because he made you so uncomfortable, but I had him in my positives for that reason. I feel like this is the most human. We've had people talk to us, or we've talked to people that are Garibaldi fans, say they love Garibaldi because he feels like the everyman character in those early seasons. I don't feel that. I've never felt like he's the everyman character because he's a cop. And he is very much a cop. It's not just, coincidentally or incidentally, he's a cop. No, he's a cop who has power and he wields it, and he has horrible viewpoints on the world that come from him being a guy who thinks he is better than everyone else, that make the whole world go blind. No, just the bad guys, right? And I don't like that about him as a character. But what I love about season 5 is it humbles him. It strips him of all of that, and we see him helpless. We see him cornered. We see him be self-destructive, and it's deeply human. And that's what I really love about the 5th season, for all of its faults. It's a deeply human story.
I'd rather have you yelling at me or angry. Anything but disappointed. I know I failed.
I didn't say I was disappointed in you because of your failure. I'm disappointed because I didn't pick up on this earlier. Disappointed because you felt that you couldn't come to me about this on your own.
So, Ryan, who who was your favorite Spotlight performer from season 5?
So with Spotlight, with our podcast for Babylon 5, it's made up of a lot of small players, people who help build out the episodes, and we always make sure to praise them or go over them or examine their performances, their characters, and the actors. And there's always something to gain out of that for us. And when we do these recaps, there's who's the person that you like the most, and whether that is through sheer performance or what we picked up on them as a performer in general, or their lives, or any interesting pieces of trivia, or what they stand for within the series. I have to say Damien London is right up there because he is the quintessential Spotlight person. He was a person that came in for a one and done role, impressed them so much they kept bringing him back, and he got to add little eccentricities to the character that informed the writing and gave us a character that is beloved. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have the Regent. We wouldn't have those wonderful line deliveries, those hand gestures, and just the sadness that's imbued in the character. And he really made a show of it in this season. He gave us a performance that was no longer comedic, but inherently just depressing, and yet it didn't feel like it was a portrayal of what we once saw. But my favorite Spotlight performer was Raymond O'Connor, who played Mac. I loved Mac. I have some issues with that episode. It's a little corny here and there, but he feels but he feels so real to what he's supposed to be. That actor is also like a typical example of what it is to be a Spotlight actor. Character actor man who's been in a gajillion things here and there, often gets typecast in these type of blue collar roles or even gangster roles. And learning more about his life and the roles he's played over the years just made me so glad that we do the Spotlight section in general. And he is so proud of the work he's done, and he's somebody that you never needed to see in Babylon 5 again because his performance and the character served that function so well that it says everything it needs to say. But if you saw him again, it wouldn't be bad. And I just with Raymond O'Connor too, he's been in these bit parts in so many things, like in Buffy. He was the loan shark, and he's a wacky guy, and he's in all of this makeup, and there's so many little details of his performance in that show. But in this one, he's a lead. He's not somebody who's coming in to be in one or two scenes. He's the lead character along with the other guy, and both of them do feel right. There's never been a moment when I've watched A View from the Gallery where I say out loud, like I do with Jinxo or the Rangers in Learning Curve or any other episodes like this, where the focus is away from the main cast. Mac and Bo are characters both in writing and performance where I never feel like they are taking away from what I'm here for. They are adding to it. And that is just ultimate praise, not only of JMS's writing, but of Raymond O'Connor's performance. And so I have to give it to him. And also, just on a little little thing of Ace Mask, that was probably the most fun Spotlight we had to do. Like
True.
Talking about it, and we had Ben here, and we were all laughing and looking at pictures of dogs, and that was probably the most rip-roaring good time we had. But those are the two I had to pick. What about yourself?
I don't have any more to add. You had the ones that I had written down. I enjoyed doing a lot of the research for this one. That's what I reflected on more than some of the performances. But it's like, oh yeah, we found that, or like, oh yeah, that website.
That has to be it, but of course we're YumYumPodcast, and the YumYum moment, the YumYum energy thing of what was the most strange, what was the most what the hell, because with YumYum and Discovery, that was a what the fuck moment. And with season 5...
Shakar doesn't give those much this season. He's too enlightened. It's a little bit saddening.
Pleasure thresholds.
like, that does come back. But, like, Lisa's part in that is way more aggressive.
So, what would you say was the yum yum moment for you? The thing that you look at with the final endeavor from Babylon 5 as a season of television. JMS had 22 episodes left to give us a moment of weirdness.
I was really struggling with this one.
Really?
Like I was, and like a couple of moments clearly popped out, but they were all from the second half of the season. And then I was like, I know there's some that Byron does that I'm forgetting. Obviously, we have the sex scene and the revelation that comes from that, and I think that one is like the one where I'm just like, what? And the other one that I want to mention up top is Delenn asking John if he can forgive Linnea.
So, I went with fun ones. You went with, like, devastating ones. We did have a sex scene. That was fucking crazy.
That's my starting
I didn't even put the sex scene in there because it, like, but it's so true. But, like, how crazy is it that in the final hour we get a hot, steamy fuck sesh, and everyone starts watching,
shatters everybody's mind,
and radicalizes them by coming so hard. Oh, that's it. I mean, that. No. I know what the yum yum moment of the season is, but that is right up there. Another one that was just such a yum yum moment was when Delenn fainted and Franklin was like, "You want me to get that gun?"
Oh yeah.
And then he winks at the camera and it goes boing. That was another one. Another yum yum moment that has to be praised out there was Lockley's arms. You know the scene, everyone. You know what I'm talking about. Her guns. She smacked her guns and said, "Byron, leave. Get out of here." And he's like, "No, we're not leaving." That was another
furniture exercises.
Well, that was the yum yum moment of the season. I've never let go of it. I've never let go of it. That's the moment. That's the thing of the season.
It's
for
coming.
Me.
You're like, it's coming. You're just gonna do it soon.
I've never let go. It's so wild.
It's so wild.
Lockley has so many things like that where she's eating like spicy ribs while doing paperwork. Every picture in her quarters is like a framed thing of the ocean or a cliff. She does furniture exercises where she puts her Achilles heels on the edge of a sharp glass table. It's just so many, but that's the yum yum thing for me, rivaled by the Lita sex scene. But look, which one did I keep making fun of more? It was the glass table.
Yeah, it was a furniture.
I would be dishonest if I didn't choose that. Oh, can I also give... This was more of an uncomfortable one, but when Linnea is Mr. Your husband. About Sheridan. Instead of calling him Sheridan.
Odd.
So, how is your husband? You mean Sheridan? Yes. Fucking freak. He's just such a fucking little gross... Oh, also everything Morden said and did in Day of the Dead. He probably
he chewed that scene real good.
Was he the character that had the most unhinged YYE?
Yes.
Ed Wasser came back and said, "Baby, I'm gonna give the most weird
I'm only here for a limited time, but I'm gonna deliver."
So what was the yum yum moment of the season?
Oh.
You pried mine from my cold, dead hands.
Soz!
Well, she said soz, so we have to forgive her. It's the most genuine way of saying sorry. But what is it? Do you have it, or are you just winging it?
I'm winging it. And you know what? Like, I had my 2 what the fuck YYE moments, and I'm gonna go with one that popped into my mind when you were talking. because it's just delightful. Like, it just makes me smile, which is, you called me John.
That's a cute moment for sure. That is very delightful, them smiling back and forth. And the 5th season has a lot of elements thrown in there, like a lot of messages, concept, themes, arcs. And when we are now finished up with it, what do you get out of it? What are the things that are the meaning of the season? Each season has their statements to be made.
This question I kind of struggled with more than I have in previous season recaps, because it's like the tail end of everything, and the new stuff that's added in I don't particularly enjoy, like the perspective on Lockley being on Clark's side during the war, the unrequited love, the unrequited love aspect with Lanier. But I think for me, the big takeaway, I guess, is that you can't escape your old self. And you can only strive to do the best that you can today. That's the thematic message that I take away from it. And I think about Jakar. I think about Londo. I think about Lanier. I think about Byron. I think about Leda. I think about Sheridan. I think about Delenn. I think about Via. All of those characters are learning that lesson over and over again.
I take season 5 as the honeymoon is over season. We won the war and the characters were happy. They literally were married and wedded and having sex and joyous stuff at the end of season 4.
Garibaldi knows intimately.
Yeah, Garibaldi was on top and so on. But the honeymoon is over. But that does not mean that life is done and that there is no redemption. And I think it's a season that really challenges what is redemption, who is capable of it, and are you deserved it? And with Babylon 5 in general, I think of this always, which is...
Does redemption resolve the problems of the past?
Yes. And to wrap out my overall thing on season 5, it's what Babylon 5 does all the time, which is... it asks questions, but does not provide easy answers.
No.
The other day I was thinking about what you said about God a few weeks ago, and I remembered an old human saying, can God make a rock so big that even he can't lift it?
Yes, I've heard it, but...
I wonder if that's the wrong question. Wonder if the right question is, can God create a puzzle so difficult, a riddle so complex, that even he can't solve it? What if that's us?
The biggest takeaway for me that I was aware of, but it was more of a subconscious thing, but now is just too clear and too present, and this is a negative, is it is made up of 2 parts.
Yes.
The first half and the second half feel so disparate from one another.
The fact that we keep on referring to the Byron arc, because it's contained. It's not a season-long thing. It's that part of season 5.
It reminds me of The Expanse. The Expanse does that too, with where we're up to, where the seasons are broken into different halves because that's where the book ends and now the book starts, the adaptation aspect of it. And it's a little frustrating there, I'll be honest, but I found it supremely disappointing with season 5 of B5 because this is the end. I want it to feel like we're on one big flow, but it really is, we stop and start with different stories. The gear shifts just don't feel natural to me.
And it also
that's the biggest takeaway.
The feeling of the show as a whole as well, because it's just like we've got these 5 seasons, but it feels like we've got 6.
Yep. and there are things that aren't played with, and then you get frustrated. As you say many times, frustration is present in season 5. And a positive that I took away is Lockley. I like her a lot more, and I think she's a much
I appreciated her a lot more.
vibrant character than I've given her credit for.
I missed her when she wasn't around, which is not something that I particularly noted on other watches.
And what was the big change up for you on...
Other than actually liking Lockley and feeling like, she disappeared. I want her back. Okay, so with season 5 on my previous watches, right? Jakar and Londo are right up the front. Like, they're in the foreground so much that they're like booping my nose. But on this watch, everything else came a bit closer as well. Like, because I took the time to appreciate all of the details instead of just reveling in what I already loved. And that appreciation of those parts growing and growing and growing. But now I feel even more so that I have an appreciation for the show as a whole, including its faults.
That's a fair way to sum it up. And with the 5th season, it has a reputation. People think it's bad. People say it's skippable. People defend it. People loathe it. People love it.
Sorry, like I'm like, I am curious at the idea of going from like the end of season 4 to Sleeping in Light, because I know that some people do that. But there's so much here that I do enjoy, and it's here to be watched. And like, it's just it baffles me that people would choose not to engage with what this season has to offer.
Would you say it's as bad as they say?
No, but like, it is not the best season. I feel very confident and comfortable saying that much. But it is not as bad. It is not as bad as people say. But also, we disagreed when people made that statement about season 1 as well. Like,
yeah, I'm not too sure, because
the Byron arc really fucking sucks.
There was a lot to take out of the season, but there was a lot of bad. And I felt miserable at certain points. With other seasons, there were one-off moments, but this had ongoing misery points.
Yeah, you brought that up a little while ago about how it's like the first time that there's whole arcs that you would like yeet.
And that's a big problem. And I do think there is merit to the discussion that this is a season that is bad. It's my least favorite now. Now we've had to do this. I thought that it wouldn't be, but if I had to rank them, this is my lowest end of the series. And
okay,
I'm
5, then
1, then 2, then 4, then 3. I like the 3rd season more than the 4th, but I just there was just such lifelessness to the season at many points. And with season 1, it just had growing pains. Mm-hmm. It just had hurdles to overcome of just being a new show. But I'm more forgiving and accepting and even excited by that than a series that became
energy to it.
Than a series that becomes tired.
Yeah, there's plenty of parts of season 5 that fall flat, and the faults with season 1. You wouldn't say that. No.
And I cannot recall, do we rate the seasons? Do we give them a yum or a yum? I think we do. And if I had to, I would give season 5 a yum. Even though it contains some of my absolute favorite episodes of the entire show.
Like, it's not good. I can't give it a yum. But it is not bad. It is another yum that is because it's fine.
It's still a great ending to this series.
Oh, Sleeping in Light.
Because I don't know.
I cannot gush enough about that episode.
Because I don't know if...
love it so much.
I don't know if season 4 I would find to be a good ending to this series. Because it's a good ending to those plots.
Yes.
But to the series as a whole, I don't find it to be one emotionally compelling enough to be the end of the show.
I could do it, like, if I had, better editing skills, I could do myself a great supercut of season 5.
It's just
and be really happy.
It's just all of the Byron scenes. It's weird that Rachel did it like that, but it's all of his scenes. And it's just so weird that she kept choosing those scenes and slow-moing them and replaying them over and over to be the length of the season.
I just, I just completely delete Sleeping in Light and the Cora's mother, the Cora's father.
It's weird that Rachel actually doesn't delete Sleeping in Light, but superimposes Byron in every single scene to add...
you just edit the Marcus crossover.
A toast to absent friends. And then it's just him listing off Special Simon. What was it? The Somber David. Quite exciting when you get to know him. Rosa. Closer than sisters. That's the toast scene. It's him toasting to all of those telepaths that he lost. And then Lita crying and saying, "Remember Byron." And that's the last line of Babylon 5 is "Remember Byron." And we will forever remember Byron. Hey, why wasn't that our Yum Yum moment of the season? That's fucking something you ridicule and mock. You can there's not a single person, including Robin Atkin Downs, that doesn't mock the Remember Byron. That shit is so funny. And Rachel, we're done. We are complete with the recap of the 5th season, and that means we're done with Babylon 5 entirely, right? There's nothing more to be done here.
Well, we already did the road home.
So we've finished.
We're not doing Crusade, so
unless we get $1,000 on Patreon, then we'll do Crusade. But we are complete with Babylon 5 entirely. Whoa, Rachel, what's this that's come across my desk? A movie?
The 4th and final.
No,
I know.
Not really. Well, there is more movies, specials, but no. The last of the TNT proper, here's a movie. This was the pitch to lead us into Crusade. It's Babylon 5, A Call to Arms we will be doing next, and then we'll do Legend of the Rangers, and then we'll do The Lost Tales, and then we'll conclude.
Yeah!
But we are
We're going to go out on a high.
A Call to Arms is a popular one amongst the fans, and it's one Rachel hasn't seen before.
Nope.
Now, I have seen it, and we should remark upon this. This is now the era in which we no longer have certain cast members, crew members, and new composer. Christopher Frank is gone now after this point. We don't get him back. We have other people. Evan Chen is and you will notice the musical differences. But here is what the description of A Call to Arms is.
The world premiere of A Call to Arms. See it for the first time anywhere, Sunday at 8, only on TNT.
Earth and Mbryo join forces to build 2 battleships under the leadership of Interstellar Alliance President John Sheridan Boxleitner. While checking the construction of the ships with Garibaldi, Jerry Doyle, is it weird that he gets a full name credit and not Boxleitner? Sheridan is sent a message in his dreams, prompting him to search the galaxy for 3 beings. Sheridan unites his new team, and together they steal the battleships and rush to lead Earth's defense against a surprise Drakh attack. Exciting. 3 beings, Rachel. It's like,
honestly, that does not make me excited.
The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit.
Fuck off.
The 3 kings? Is it those?
Fuck off!
Is it those Elvis impersonators on Babylon 5? He has to gather them up to help him defend against the Drakh attack. Oh. Thank you all so much for listening to our rambles and Rachel's screaming laughs as we go through the 5th season. And that is a wrap up from us. We recapped it. We went through it all. We went through it all, baby. We saw a Pakmara naked one time. That's not a hump on their back. But you can find our humps on backs on social media. Go to YumYumPod or YumYumPodcast on your social media of choice.
If you want to email us, you can send it to yumyumpod@gmail.com. And if you can't understand my laugh talking, it's in the description for you too.
I speak Rachel. And she said yumyumpod@gmail.com. All of this is in the description below, as well as our Patreon. You can join our Patreon and you get to be a member of the Patreon. You can help fund the Crusade tier, as well as get episodes early for our coverage on The Expanse and a multitude of other goodies. We're talking about Doctor Who. We're talking about Star Wars. We're talking about the best and worst episodes of Star Trek. So much. My mouth is watering, as well as a group Discord. We're having a grand old time on the group Discord. We're chatting with one another, watching things, listening. It's just such a wonderful time. So please come on over to the Patreon and support the podcast. But enough plugging of all of our stuff. We better get out of here because Jakar is going to tap on his chest and say good eating to you. But
Thump.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. It's not a tap. It's not a tap. Those are fists.
So he's fisting his chest. That's some good eating.